Who do I have in here so far? I see I have 3 people. Feel free to pop a hello in the chat. I know the other session is probably over a little bit. C4, can you hear me? Hello, Barsha. How are you? Excellent. Not too shabby. Is the other session finished? I just want to make sure that I'm not jumping into everything before people are here. Not yet, I figured. So either I'm going to hit 6 people and I'll get started, or I'm going to wait for the other session, whichever comes first. Or do you want me to get started? Totally up to me. The freedom to choose. All right, well, I will share my screen. Get that going. There I am. Seeing as how nobody else has answered yet, to say that they're here, I have a feeling people are not actually here. So I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. If you are here, oh, there's 5, 6. I'm assuming the other session must be finished. If you're coming into the room, just drop a quick hello in the chat. Oh, hello, Clarice. Welcome. Hello, Maria. Excellent. Good to see a couple people here. So I'm not going to, oops, apparently I'm starting at the end of my presentation. Hey, Felicia. But you guys just got like a little bit of a backwards starting off for this. 7. Okay. Well, I'm going to get started because when I found out I had an hour today, I basically jam-packed a bunch of things into this presentation. For those of you who know me at all, you know I like to give as much information as possible, lots of actionable stuff. So I just want to make sure that when you leave the session today, you feel like you have tons of things that you can work on just to make sure that your marketing is working for you. So today we are going to talk about that difficult question of what you should do if your marketing is just not working. And the reality of it is, sometimes things just don't work. And oftentimes we don't know how to fix them. So we just keep doing them. And then before you know it, it's a year into it and nothing is working for you. Your company isn't growing. And honestly, it often starts with your marketing. It could be the foundational aspects of it. It could be the different tactics you're using. So today we're going to go through the different things that you can do to make sure that your marketing is working for you and you're focused on the right areas. Good. So we have a couple more people in here. So I am actually just going to plow straight through and get right into it. Okay, so a little bit about me. I don't want to focus on this too much. I am the founder of Songbird Marketing Communications, and I work with small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and a lot of individual experts as well to really help people find their voice and help them to tell their story in the right way at the right time, and just to make sure that they can connect with their customers in the right ways. I do a lot of media relations. I've done strategies that are very local, and I've done strategies that are international. And every single time there's always an importance to it, because you have to attach an importance to marketing, because it's how you're telling your story to the world, how you're telling your story to your customer. And so you just want to make sure you're focusing on it in the right ways. But I did want to start off and ask everybody how you're doing. I know we just went through an amazing panel discussion about, health and wellness and how it applies to entrepreneurs. So I'm going to ask you how you're all doing. It's a little bit of a checking in, and ask you how you're feeling about your marketing. And I'll start, because I know there's a bit of a delay before comments come in. But, I have to say that the past year has been super tough. It's been really hard. And I don't yet feeling optimistic about marketing. That's amazing, Dwania. Most of you who know me know that I don't mince words, and I've been fairly honest with everything. Oftentimes I use humor to kind of express myself. But, running a business with a super busy toddler has not been easy in the past year. And you put all of the social aspects of that into it, and it's been tough. And when you blend that into marketing, even with us, even though there's a lot of things that are very transferable to digital, it's just everything has been flipped on its head. And so for most of us, there's been a lot of changes, and we've had to adapt over the years. Megan, you're talking about you need a change in your marketing. You finally discovered who your ideal client is. Amazing. That must have been like a light bulb epiphany. I love that. So we'll talk a little bit more about that too. So now that we've checked in, let's talk about, could do better with my marketing, but I feel it's a lot better. Oh, yes, amazing. I would agree, Sadaf. I would agree. You're making strides though, for sure. But I did want to talk about marketing burnout. As someone who does marketing for a living, I can tell you the struggle is real when it comes to burnout. Sometimes as a business owner, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur or you work with a small team, it's really easy to get wrapped up into everything. And then before you know it, you hate life, you hate your business, nothing's working. And I find that oftentimes when it comes to your marketing, the creativity just gets pushed off to the side, and nobody enjoys your content. Nobody's enjoying the different tactics that you're doing. You're putting effort into it, but you're not putting effort into the right ways. And so in those times when you're really feeling like you can't do it anymore, it's okay to stop and take a break. In fact, I would suggest it. You take a breath and you take a break from it. You have to make sure that you separate yourself from your marketing, because remember, again, as entrepreneurs, it's very, very easy to get wrapped up and calling us in what you do rather than who you are. So you have to make sure that you separate yourself from your business and from your marketing, and realize that some of those stresses that you're having personally sometimes roll into what you're trying to do with your marketing, which isn't really going to help you get creative at all. So always be aware of marketing burnout, and make sure that you're prepared to take a breath, take a step back, and really make sure that you can separate your personal feelings from what's going on with your business, for sure. But the first thing that you need to do, and if you're following along the workbook, that's great. If not, that's also fine. You have it. It's there to download if you want it. You can do the work later on. So the first thing you have to do, though, is you need to check your marketing goals. A lot of times people think, well, I have my business goals and that's really all I need. Well, I would say no, that's wrong. You need to make sure that you have your separate business goals and your marketing goals, and they should mesh very well together, like a puzzle. Your marketing goals are there to support you in your overall business goals. And you just want to make sure that when you're setting your goals, that your goals are matching the tactics that you're using. And the tactics are just the different things that you're doing for your marketing. And what I find is people will set marketing goals, but they won't choose the right tactics to help them actually get to the end goal, to that finish line, to make sure that you reach the goal that you're wanting to do. You know, these are a few examples of goals that you can have. You could be looking for brand awareness. You maybe want to become the go-to expert in your field, or to increase engagement on your social media. Maybe you want to generate more leads or have community growth. You want a higher conversion rate because you want people to actually click through your funnel, actually become a paying customer. Increase web traffic, increase brand loyalty. These are all things that people are often looking to achieve with their marketing. And you just want to make sure that the tactics are matching it. So for example, if you're looking for awareness, that would really match extremely well with, for example, influencer marketing or doing some sort of media relations. Awareness is also really great if you're focused on content and maybe things like blogging, also becoming the go-to expert, things like blogging and creating great content and showing your expertise. Those are the types of things that you want to focus on. And so just make sure that when you're in it right now and things are not going great, you want to make sure that you're checking your marketing goals, and you want to make sure that you have everything written down, because you can't move forward unless you actually check those goals. And writing it down also keeps you accountable, so you can make sure that you're actually working to achieve those goals. And I mean, what are your current marketing goals? Who has a goal that they're working towards right now? I know for me, obviously, I'm looking to get more leads all the time. But even beyond that, I'm just looking to connect with amazing entrepreneurs that have a product or a service that I believe in, that I think is really cool. People are looking to share something interesting with the world. That's what I'm looking for. And so I am looking to create more leads. Conversion on your store, Dwania, absolutely. And one thing good that CSBW does is you're constantly talking about it, so which is amazing. So you're looking conversion on your store. Who else has a marketing goal that they're working towards right now? Anybody? More leads, higher conversion. Yeah, leads, amazing. That's generally, which makes sense. And keep in mind that sometimes a goal like getting more leads for your marketing also couples really well with things like higher brand awareness, because the more people that hear about you and learn about what you do, the more likely you are to actually get leads coming in. If you're looking to become the go-to expert in your fields, more likely to get more leads coming in. So you have to look at, okay, I've got my overall goals, and then I want to look at those complementary goals that are actually going to fit with what I'm looking to do. Okay, we've all heard of SMART goals, yes? Specific. You want to make sure they're specific, because then you won't know that if you're actually achieving them if they're not specific. So think numbers, because they have to be measurable. You have to be able to identify what success is for you before you can achieve success. They have to be attainable. They want to be relevant, and you want them to be timely. So just make sure that you have everything laid out in a timeline for you. Sometimes people are aware of SMART goals, and sometimes they're like, well, of course I have SMART goals. And then you sit down to look at your goals and you're like, oh, I don't have a number associated with that. I don't have a number associated with how many leads I want to come in. I know leads was one that came up quite a bit. Higher conversion rate. What is the conversion rate that you actually want to achieve? So, having one lead come in could actually then help you achieve your goal. If you want to get one new lead every month, maybe they're high paying leads. So always make sure that you set goals that are things that you can actually measure to reach that success. Have you made any changes to your marketing goals or your strategy in the past year? I think I know the answer to this for most people. It's likely yes. Hands up or yes. Give me a shout in the chat if you've made any changes in the past year. I have. Yeah. We've made some changes. As I'm going to sip my cold coffee here. Most people have made changes. We've learned to adapt as entrepreneurs in the past year. I think it's a superpower that most of us have. And sometimes the adapting has gone well, and sometimes it hasn't gone quite to plan. And so let's look at maybe why it's not working. So maybe you have no idea who your customer is. That was one thing, Megan, you said that you finally found your ideal customer. That could be something that is holding you back. Sometimes we go full steam ahead and we have this amazing strategy that we've built. And then we realize, a year or 2 years down the line, well, people aren't necessarily buying from me as much as I thought they would. And there are often times where we sit down with clients and it's like, after having a chat, we're like, well, have you considered maybe going for a younger audience or an older audience, or maybe you shouldn't be targeting women at all, it should be men. And most of the time it's asking critical questions of the audience niche that you've picked, or maybe you have an audience that's too broad and you need to actually pick a smaller niche within your broader audience. And that's actually going to help you to target your marketing efforts. Another example of why it couldn't be working is that you're not listening to your customers. We've all been in those presentations where people are chattering away in the chat. And I'm going to talk about virtual right now because this is the reality we live in. People are chattering away and making comments, and the presenter is totally oblivious to it. I know that sometimes it's a technology thing. However, there are other times where it's like people are just willfully ignoring. And I feel like oftentimes brands, they will do this. They will ignore if a customer has questions, or they'll answer that question, but then not really internalize what the answer to that question could mean for their business as a whole. If you have 3 people that are asking you for a specific feature to be added onto your product, and it's something that you could add, but you're not adding it for whatever reason, the question is why. Or if a lot of people are saying that your prices are too high, they would purchase it if it was $5 cheaper. If you're getting that same sentiment over and over again, maybe you have to re-examine your pricing strategy, or you have to pick a different niche audience that is willing to pay more for what you're offering. Another reason why it might not be working is that you're using the wrong channels. Just because Instagram is there, just because TikTok is there, just because blogging is there, doesn't mean that you as a business, as a brand, as an expert have to be there too. The thing that you need to make sure you're doing is you're picking your platforms or your channels based on what your audience wants from you. So it goes back to listening to your customers. Sometimes it's a bit of trial and error. So you have to figure out the exact channels that are right for you, for sure. And then the last reason why it's probably not working for you is you aren't telling your story. Every brand is a story. And I'm not just talking about a founder story or how the business came about. I'm talking about that gut feel behind your brand, how you make other people feel, what your product or service does for them, why they would want to buy from you, what the experience is like. All of that is part of your brand story. And I would say 9 times out of 10, if something isn't working, that is often part of the element of why it's not working, is that people aren't focusing on that enough. They're not focusing on educating their customers on why they should buy from them and who they are as a brand. Because when I buy from somebody, I want to know exactly who I'm buying from. And that doesn't necessarily mean the face behind the brand. Sometimes that's a part of it, but I want to know how that brand is going to make me feel. So if you're not giving me a chance to get to know you on a deeper, more intimate level, then you're missing out on an opportunity. And sometimes there are customers that are not consciously aware that they're looking for that. And oftentimes it's unconscious, where they just go on a gut feel. And if a brand gives them that good feeling, they're going to march forward with them and they're going to join their community. So these are 4 common examples of why your marketing might not be working for you. And if you're missing one of these elements, chances are you're leaving opportunities on the table, even if things might be going okay right now. Let me ask you this. How do you like brands to communicate with you? I just talked about the fact that I love it when brands, they let me get to know them more on a deeper level, talking about the feeling about the brand and giving me a chance to get to know them. I love social media. So if someone's looking to target me, my age group, which I'm not going to tell you what it is, you could probably guess, but whatever. Uh, if a brand, social media for sure, I was going to say, so yeah, social media is a big one. You know, and different channels, different platforms on social media are offering different things as well. Yeah, don't go to a restaurant if you can't see their food on Instagram. 100%. I can tell you, I hired a makeup artist for my wedding, and this was a while ago. This was in 2016, and I didn't see a lot of examples on their Instagram, and it was a red flag for me. They were a referral, so I hired her anyway, and it was terrible. It was terrible. So, sometimes it takes a bad experience too to remind you of what you want from a brand. Anybody else? So Dwania, social media for sure. A lot of people are loving, blogs and vlogs these days that they can consume very easily. Things that tie in the offline with the online world. That's also a really big thing for a lot of people. Multiple screen usage. We're going from our phones to our laptop to a second monitor, which I have over here flashing at me, sometimes with a TV in the background or, whatever is happening. So you also have to think about how your customers are consuming content. So figuring out what you like from brands is going to be the first step in helping you to figure out what your customers want from you. So if you're able to articulate that, then that's half of the battle. So Dwania was the only one that articulated it. So either people are not listening in here, or you're not sure how to articulate what brands want. Relatability, absolutely, 100%. And yes, I just called out all of the people that are in this session. Okay. How do we figure out what's broken? Struggling with articulating. Absolutely. That's okay. And that's okay. That's okay if you're struggling. That's the first step to figuring out how you can talk to people. Dwania, I knew you'd appreciate me calling people out. People call me out all the time for stuff, so I'm going to call other people out. All right. So how to figure out what's broken? This is the circular that you're going to be looking at as a marketer, as a business owner who's in charge of marketing, or someone who's instructing your interns how to do it for you, because you don't want to leave them to do it on their own. Sometimes you can find a unicorn, but you still want to set up a strategy to make sure that everyone's on the same page. You don't want to, throwing people into the fire is great unless they're not enjoying it. I always enjoy being thrown into the fire, but that's just me. So you start out with your tactics. And again, your tactics are the different elements of your marketing strategy. So a tactic would be Instagram, or a business blog, or an email newsletter. Those are all different tactics that you can do. In-person events, which we're all longing for. That's coming. That's coming. Those are all different tactics that you can do. What you want to make sure that you're doing when you select your tactics, and hands up if you've done this, you've identified metrics that you would like to track while you're executing those tactics. How many people have metrics that they're tracking on a regular basis? And I'm talking to, good, Sadaf, yes, excellent. Now let me ask you this. Yeah, love a good KPI, absolutely. Brooke, this is where I would sit down with wine. Maybe not for my financials. I don't always like doing that. But yeah, so you always want to make sure that you have identified metrics associated with every tactic that you're doing. And it's not just a passive thing where maybe you check your insights on Instagram, once a week, whatever. You don't track anything by writing it down. You want to make sure that you're tracking things. If you can't afford a fancy schmancy dashboard, that's okay, because Excel is wonderful for something like that, and it's free. So, set up a spreadsheet. If you like writing things down, write it down in a notebook. You need to be able to look at something so you can see the trends over time. Are you taking the steps to reach your goal? Are you reaching your milestones along the way? So make sure that you select your metrics, and that you select your time frame for tracking them. It can't just be a once a year thing. It has to be regular. So for example, for us, for Songbird and for clients, we are in there weekly grabbing data. So we're always grabbing data. And for some clients, we do weekly reports. For some, we do monthly. It depends on the different tactics that we're working on. But you always want to make sure that you set out your timeframes for tracking as well before you get started, so you have a plan in place. If you're not noticing a theme, it's that you have to plan. All right. I have a toddler, so I've got a Sesame Street song that's rolling through my head right now, but about planning to play. But anyway, I digress. So execution is next. You have to actually start what you're doing to know if it's going to work or not. This is oftentimes the hardest part of the process, is that you actually have to do it and you have to go all in. You can't do something halfway. If you're going to do it halfway, don't do it. I always say that. And you know what? Some people are like, well, I feel like I should be on 3 social media platforms. That's fantastic. If you're not going to do all of them and do them amazingly well all the way, just do one. Go all the way with whatever tactic that you're picking. So execute it. You want to make sure that you give yourself some time. It's not going to happen overnight. Some people want instant results. If you're doing higher paid advertising, sometimes that is available to you. Most people are looking at organic. And so you want to make sure that you give your strategy time to breathe. Okay, don't stress out if something isn't happening in the first week. There are some times, especially even for social media, if you're looking at organic growth for your community and engagement, it's going to take time. Give yourself a good 3 months before you start to panic. And then within that time, because you're tracking your metrics, you can look to see what is working best for you. Which brings me to my next point, data. This is a word that terrifies everybody. And I always like to tell this story about, so when I did my MBA, I had no business background. You thought I was going to say I had no business being there, but I did. I was an English teacher before. I was a professional musician. I had never used Excel before. And in my first finance class, my professor said, hands up if you've never used Excel. I was the only person that put my hand up. He looked at me like I was insane. And I was like, what? Why would I have ever had to use Excel before? So if data doesn't scare me, it should not scare you. That's the moral of that story. Data is great. Go back to your metrics. Go back to what you're tracking. Look at those trends. You don't have to be any sort of data wizard or a savant to read your data. You just have to look at the numbers. Are they on their way up? If you're looking for engagement, is your engagement going up? Is it trending upwards? Just look at those different data points. Is your traffic going up on your website? How is your traffic in relation to how many sales you're making? That's going to help you get your conversion rate. So all of those different things are data pieces that you can track along the way. And then the last thing you want to look at is debriefing. And this is also scary to many, and it's a step that most people do not take, and they don't take it far enough. You have to be hard on yourself. And if something isn't working, it doesn't mean that you're bad at what you do. It just means that that tactic didn't work. So you either have to tweak the strategy or you have to try something new. And I find for me, the debrief is sometimes the most exciting point of any strategy that I'm building, because it's a chance for me to say, okay, this didn't work. Why didn't it work? And what will work better? So maybe the content that I'm posting on Instagram isn't working really, really well if it's static posts on the feed. But I started creating Reels content, and man, our reach is going through the roof. Maybe I want to shift my strategy to that. It's showing me that those are the tweaks that I'm going to make. So there's part of your debrief. Maybe it's that your audience is just not responding. And so you just really need to make sure that you're asking yourself those questions. And part of the workbook is it's there to help you kind of along that process. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later down the line, a couple slides down. I was trying to figure out how I wanted to formulate this presentation, but just to make sure that it flowed properly. But we are going to come back to debrief and kind of making those tough decisions about how to know when to cut something as well. So we're fixing something that's broken here. This is the cycle that you want to take. Memorize it, internalize it, and don't be afraid of it, because this is all part of the growing process as an entrepreneur, as a marketer, however you identify yourself as. What marketing tactics are you currently using, and why are you using them? Just pop it in the chat. What are you currently doing right now? Are you on social? What platforms are you on? Why are you there? Are you on social media because you have a really visual product that you're putting out there? I know some of you here do, because I know some of your businesses. So what marketing tactics are you using right now? Tell me. And how, what's your goal? I take a sip of my coffee. Instagram, I have visual products, amazing. What else? What else? Bring it on. Sometimes on Facebook as well. Email marketing is first and foremost, then Instagram. Amazing. Amazing. Okay, keep them coming in, because we're gonna, LinkedIn and Instagram, focused on engagement and storytelling. We'll be launching a coaching program this fall. Amazing. My kids are here distracting me. Yeah, I can hear my daughter crying, which is why I have headphones on. That's the life. Instagram, Facebook, email marketing, love it. These are all great. And I like to see that it seems like you know kind of what you would like to do. In a podcast, yep. Awesome. Pinterest, yes. Okay, good. You're right, it's not, you know what, nothing is easy. If owning a business was easy, if marketing a business was easy, then everybody would be doing it. The reality is not everybody's doing it. And while there are a lot of people that have launched businesses, and even in the past year, people have launched businesses, I feel like entrepreneurs, we're all superheroes in our own way. So just keep internalizing that. It's not easy, and you just have to keep moving forward and figure out what works. You're right, it can get overwhelming. That's where you come back to this cycle. If it's overwhelming, that means that maybe you're trying to do too much. So as an entrepreneur, you have to also recognize that you have limits. And it's okay to say that it's too much. If setting up Pinterest is too much and it's becoming overwhelming, then you have to say no. And we're going to come to that a little bit more. So let's talk about your brand story, or hire somebody. Yes, 100%. I wouldn't have a business if people didn't feel like they needed to hire someone to help them out every so often. You're right, it's not worth the time. It's the same thing, we always use the mechanic reference. You can either fix it yourself by watching YouTube videos and you take extra time. It might work, it might not. Or you can hire someone who knows what they're doing and it'll take half the time. And it's worth the investment if you can manage it. Or find someone that will work with you. That's also a big one as well, if you don't have the budget to have someone do it outright. But we talked about brand story a little bit. And I said brand story is important for me when I'm looking for someone to work with. But the reality is, it needs to be a huge part of everything that you do. Every single marketing tactic, every single social media post, every single blog, every single email, every single comment in a forum, every single thing that you do should always come back to your brand story. No question, period. End. I should move on with the slides, but I want to say it again. And the reason why it's important is because you need to be consistent with your marketing. You need to be consistent with the message that you're putting out there. And I can't tell you, and again, I'm going to come back to this 9 times out of 10, because we're talking about when things are not working. But 9 times out of 10, we're coming back to that. If it's not working, it's probably because you haven't taken the time to set up proper brand messaging for yourself. That's a big one. Who has done brand messaging? You've sat down and you have a document that has the top 3 or 4 or 5 key messages about your business and what it is that you offer. Who has done that? I'll wait. I'll wait in silence. I'll laugh. It's awkward. Silence is awkward. These things are so awkward. Most of the time, people have not actually done proper brand messaging. Starts with your value. Yep, I didn't. There we go. It's okay. It's okay if you're if you haven't. You're not alone. I said 9 times out of 10, and I meant it. Most people have not sat down to do a proper messaging document, and this always drives me crazy because I read through the website and I look at social and I look at emails and I look at marketing materials, and I'm like, these are all saying different things. How are you supposed to put forward a great picture of your brand and connect with people if you can't even hone in on who you are as a brand yourself? And, you know, it comes back to sometimes too, write it down. You have to write these things down. Some people say, well, it's in my head. Okay, but what if you hire an intern to help you with social media? Or what if you hire, well, a good marketing strategist should always create the messaging for you if you haven't, but what if you hire someone to help you and you don't have it? How are you supposed to guide them with how to talk about your brand? How are you supposed to hammer in that brand message over and over again so that your customers, when they refer you to somebody else, are using the words that you would use? The only way that you're going to do that is if you create brand messaging and you use it for every single thing that you do. Sometimes verbatim. Sometimes it's a matter of copying and pasting part of your brand message and putting it out there. If you do brand messaging, website content is easy. I'm telling you. Great brand messaging is an incredible guide to creating amazing content to help you connect better with your audience. Here's my mic drop, and I'm gonna move on to the next slide, which is related about connecting through content. Yeah, you feel weird on the hammering. So we'll come back to, I'll come to that. You know, when I say hammering it over and over again, I'm not talking about that, like that sleazy, like grimy sales where you're kind of like really trying to get people to buy from you and it makes people feel gross and you feel gross about it. You shouldn't. You need to talk about your business though. If you're not going to talk about your business, I mean, are we in Fight Club? No. You know, you want to make sure that you're talking about your business. And when I say hammering it through over and over, I just mean talking about your business in a way that is consistent. I don't mean always hammering out the sale where you're typing in capital letters, which is super annoying on social media all the time. You don't want people yelling at you. You just want to make sure that you're telling your story in a way that's consistent over and over again. And if you don't want to tell your story, then maybe you have more of a hobby than a business, because you want to make sure that you talk about your business so you can sell it to people. If you're not going to talk about it, then what's the point, right? How are you going to market it if you're not going to talk about it over and over? So, and Lena, I'm not saying that to call you out. Again, that is something that it's very common, and it's more common in women entrepreneurs than it is with men, is that we find it really hard to toot our own horn, to brag about ourselves, when really it's not bragging, it's talking about what we can do for you. And so you know that what you have is a great enough idea that you've created a business around it. Tell the world. And it's okay to tell the world. It's not bragging. It's just saying, this is what I can do for you. And if you've created that messaging, oh, you're a hobo. You're right. If you've created that messaging, then it's going to make it so that it feels less sleazy and less pressure-y. That's not even a real word, but I'm going to call it a word right now, to talk about your business. Okay. All right. So we're connecting through content. And these are the different kind of things that you want to think about when you're creating your content. You want to make sure that you're using persuasive language. You want to be authentic. I know that's a buzzword that's used a lot, but that is the reality. You want to appear genuine. You should be genuine when you're talking about your business. You want to make sure that anything that you're saying is focused on building a relationship rather than pressuring someone into a sale. That's just really, it's it's just all of the ingredients for a PR disaster if you're just pressuring people into sales. That's not what you want. Focus on those relationships, focus on listening to your customers and making them the hero of the story. You've heard that a lot. Again, I feel that's something that's overused, but be customer centered. What do they want to hear from you? Don't keep creating content that you think sounds good, but if your customers don't want to hear it, then again, what's the point? You're just wasting all of your energy, all of your time. Maybe you've hired someone and you're wasting money by having them do this. So you just want to make sure that everything that you do is customer centered. I'm focusing on time here as well. It should be good. All right. Focus on trending topics. You want to make sure that you're staying on top of it and being relevant. And look at those emotional triggers. For the love of all things good, people love feeling emotional about a brand. Whether it's you make them laugh and you make them feel joy, it's nostalgia. Obviously, focusing on anger isn't great. But focus on those emotional triggers that are really going to get to the heart of how somebody feels and how you make them feel as the brand. We're coming back to metrics. Brand awareness. These are the types of metrics that you should be using. So for brand awareness, this one can be really hard to measure. Obviously, that sounds really, really generic. But for social media, you can look at things like reach. You can look at impressions, shares. That's how many people are seeing things from you, from your brand. You can also look at things like referrals. Then you know that the word is being spread about you. At one point, this was pre-pandemic when we were doing things in person. I'm not sure how we did this, but I actually had someone say, well, you're everywhere. And I'm like, I was doing so many workshops and I was like, how am I even doing this? But that's what you want to do, is you want people to see you. So either they're going to be exasperated enough that they're going to buy from you. They're going to love you, so they're going to buy from you. Or they're going to know your personality and they're going to know it's not a really good fit. In my case, sometimes, for a marketing person, you want to make sure that it's a really good personality fit with any brand, with any entrepreneur, because if you don't work well together, then just walk away. It's just a good lesson to know. Engagement, if your goal is surrounding engagement and increasing engagement, you're going to look at things like likes, comments, saves. That's on social. Maybe you have a forum. You look at the discussions that are on the forum. How engaged are people at your events? Like those types of things are what you're looking at. For web traffic, that's a little bit more obvious, but you look at things like link clicks, the bounce rate on your website, how long people are spending on your website, page stats, things like that are what you're looking at. And then for leads, things like email signups, how many people sign up for consultations, maybe coffee meetings, depending on what your business model is. Those are really good metrics to track. So I just wanted to give you some examples. The big thing here is to keep it simple. Don't try to bog yourself down with pages and pages and pages and pages of data. Unless you're a data wizard, then please, by all means, do that. And I applaud you. I'm not a data wizard, but you have to be able to understand the data enough. So you want to keep it simple. We all have so much going on during the day as entrepreneurs, most of us, and now we're dealing with pandemic stuff as well. So just keep it simple for yourself or you won't do it. And if you're not going to do it, again, it comes back to what's the point? What metrics do you think that you can track for your marketing? And judging by what some of you have said, there was a lot for leads, so signups, consultations. We did have brand awareness. That was some engagement, conversions. Yep. All right. We're going to move on. This is also in the workbook, okay? So I've given you spaces to actually write this down. And there's a method to the madness with how things are organized in that workbook. I'm going to actually just like hold it up to the screen. This is going to be really awkward and very analog. Actually, no, I won't because my screen is small. So when you do get to the workbook, and you can take note on page 4, there's a lovely little chart that I've created. And again, I'm all about keeping things simple, right? If it's not simple, you're not going to do it. This is simply listing your marketing tactic, listing the associated goals with it. And then that's going to help you to actually see what's working and what's not working. Okay. All right, moving on. This is where we put everything together. So that list that Brick, you're welcome. That list that I just talked about, that's when you can actually get to the nitty gritty of things and you say, okay, these are the tactics I'm doing. I'm sorry, I'm getting really close to the camera. This is very intense. These are the tactics that I'm doing. These are the metrics that I'm tracking. And if we go to this page, if anyone has it open, these are the goals that I have. And then I have to identify, has this been successful for me? Is the data trending upwards? Is it falling flat? Is it declining? Whatever it is, this is where you identify if things, or what's working and what's not. The things at the top of your list that are successful, you plow through and you keep going with those things. The things that are not working for you, you have to figure out why. So you need to go to the data and you need to look and you need to say, can I try posting at different times? Can I try different types of content? Can I try sending that email at a different time in the day? Can I try formatting my email differently? What's not working about it? And if there's no salvaging it, then just cut it from your strategy. There's no need to keep it around. There's so many other marketing tactics that you can choose from. And if it's not your tactics, then we also talked about the fact that, you could have identified early on if you're targeting the wrong audience as well. Okay, so you start with those foundational aspects that we talked about, those 4 potential reasons why it's not working. And then you move down to everything and you look at your tactics and you go through that cycle about the metrics and execution and the data and the debrief. And this is where you list your tactics and you figure out what's working and what's not. Okay, cut the fluff. That's what I always like to say. If it's not working, then you're just putting effort into something that's never going to work properly for you. All right. And then you also have to look at what is filling you with joy with your marketing and what is filling you with dread. That is also a very good question to ask, because if something is filling you with dread, it's frustrating you to no end, makes you angry, it makes you sad, it just terrifies you. And I'm not talking about the stepping out of your comfort zone. We'll talk about that in a second. If it's something that is just you hate doing, then maybe consider that that's not the right tactic for you, because if you hate doing it, your audience is going to know. They're going to know. In the same way that if you do a radio interview and you're scowling through the whole thing, people who are listening are going to know. They're just going to know. And so you just want to make sure that whatever you're doing with your marketing brings you joy so you can share that joy with your audience. Oops, I'm talking with my hands a lot more than normal today. The next thing that you want to look at is ask your audience what they want from you. Now, you might say, well, I'm fairly new and I don't have a large audience. That's okay. You can ask one person. How are they going to know? It's true. You're right. That is a TikTok video. Maybe I should take your suggestion and do that. But really, you just want to make sure that you're talking to your audience, you're identifying those opportunities to listen to them. It could be a survey, it could be an Instagram story question, it could be whatever. You could keep it simple, you could go a little bit more all in on it. Monitor for the feedback, analyze the feedback, and then take action. Don't just throw a question out into the universe and then say, well, the question's out there, and then you just leave it. People are going to want to know. They're going to want to know, what was the outcome of that question? I've done that sometimes. This is just like a personal Instagram thing where I've done a poll and then I haven't shared what the actual poll answer was. Like, why didn't I do that? So you just want to make sure that you're staying on top of things and you're asking people and you're actually taking action on it. Okay. I'm not going to dwell on this because I have 10 minutes left in this session. So I just want to make sure that we're moving forward. But the big takeaway from this slide is that you want to make sure that you're matching your customer and you're not matching the trends that are out there. And when I say this, I mean, just because something is popular doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. Nor should it. You know, something that works for your competitors may work for you, but it might not. And so you have to make sure that you are looking at the data and you're listening to your customers, and then you're creating your strategy and you're tweaking your strategy from there. That's a big thing, right? You might feel like a trendsetter. It might feel awkward. You might feel like you're kind of putting yourself on a limb, but still go for it. Step out of your comfort zone. This is one of my favorite slides. I like to put this in a lot of my presentations, just as a reminder that, you know, it's good and it's super healthy to make that sort of marketing wish list. And this is in the workbook. It is a question. What is one marketing tactic? And I'm going to ask you this. You can pop it into the chat if you can think about it. What's one marketing tactic that you have always wanted to do, but you never have? What is one marketing tactic? What do you think? You know, I mean, most people have that sort of marketing wish list that they're doing things, their competitors are doing things that they wish that they could do. Well, you can do it as well. It just takes planning and making sure that you have those metrics in place before you actually do it. So live video on social, that's consistent with my brand. Yeah, that's a big one. And video is terrifying for a lot of people, you know. Even people who are comfortable performing are often putting themselves out there in a live situation. It is absolutely terrifying. So it's definitely, that's a good one. And I think that's something you can work towards. I would say, you know, for you, Lena, and of course I do not know you and what you're doing, but you know, I would say start out easy and doing things pre-recorded and work your way up to doing a live. You know, so there are ways that you can work your way up to it. You just have to set that strategy and that plan and set yourself the end goal and then the little mini milestones along the way and celebrate each of those milestones. That is incredibly important. Yeah, do lives with other people. It definitely makes it easier for sure. 100%. You just sometimes have a little less control sometimes about what it might look like because you're introducing somebody else into it. It's the same thing if you're doing any sort of media interview. You have to give up a little bit of control, but it's a good practice for sure. All right. So before I get into questions, I know I have like 7 minutes. I will be around in the booth afterwards too if anyone has any questions. I'm in the Songbird booth. But I do want to talk about something that I don't normally do. These are the many faces of me. As you can tell, I'm very expressive. I'm doing something that I don't normally do. I have marketing coaching packages where I work with entrepreneurs one-on-one. They're 1 hour intensive, one-on-one sessions. Obviously, we're doing them via Zoom right now. I like to give actionable and tailored advice. So all of the things that we've been going through today are things that I would go into great depth to figure out what's working and what's not working. You know, I want to make sure that you're learning the steps that you need to implement great strategies for your business. I want to give you all my secrets because if you can go forth and conquer, I think that's amazing. You set the schedule, we set the topics together. I think that's really important because I want to make sure that whatever conversation we have is going to help you succeed in the long run. That is the biggest goal. The original price that I normally charge is $565. For CSBW I can't talk anymore apparently. CSBW attendees today, I'm giving the price at $465. All you have to do to get this, I sound like a salesman. This is not what it sounds like. Too much coffee today. All you have to do today is sign up for a 20-minute consultation with me. And just because I love you guys so much, when you sign up for that 20-minute consultation, I am also going to give you a free social media assessment tool. So whether you decide to work with me or not, totally irrelevant. You're going to get this tool so that you can then look at it and implement it on your own as well. Okay, so whether you decide to work with me or not, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to make sure that we can set you up for the first baby steps to success. Or if you want to take the leap with me, I think that's amazing. But that is that. So does anybody have any questions? No worries, Tina. I know I love free tools. I'm all about the tools, man. It's all about the tools. I'm actually going to stop sharing. Does anyone have any questions? Glad you enjoyed it, Carlene. I almost said Charlene. I'm sure you get that a lot. I'm sorry. No questions? You're welcome, Maria. Again, like I said, I will be around in the Songbird booth if you have any questions. If not, definitely sign up for, oh, thank you so much, Sheena. Sign up for the 20-minute session for sure. That is available to you. You have to sign up, like actually just sign up by Friday. You can schedule it for whenever, but sign up by Friday to get the deal. Those 20-minute sessions are always going to be there, but sign up by Friday to get the deal and to get that free social assessment tool. I put my love into it, I promise. There's a little bit of sass in it as well, I have to say. It should come as no surprise. But yeah, so I'm here, and if you do have any questions and you don't stop by the booth, I'm going to pop my email. Apparently, I can't multitask and type at the same time. I mean, talk and type. So there we go. There's my email as well. I'm around. You can connect with me on Instagram, Candace Huntley, or you can find us on our new Instagram handle at songbird_buzz as well. I'm on Twitter. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Honestly, though, I check Instagram more than I check LinkedIn. But yeah, so that's it. That's all I have. If nobody has any questions, I will see you, I guess, for the rest of the day. Oh, thank you, Dwania.